I am back with another project. This time we are going to be fixing my friend's brick patio. They had power run to their detached garage so they can charge their car, and they had to tear up the patio in order to do so. When the electrician filled back in this area, they somehow combined a lot of dirt with the sand and base that was previously here. So you guessed it, we are digging. My shovels have been working overtime this summer. We got all of this dug out as far down as we could go to get the dirt out, and then tamped down the area to make sure it was really compact. There was a really good base there with gravel and sand, so we only had to add some paver base in the low spots. We tamped that down as well, and then it was time for the leveling sand. I used PVC conduit to make sure this sand was leveled in the correct place. I lined up the bottom of the current bricks with the top of the PVC and used a level and board to screed across. I've never actually done this before, and it was hard for me to make sense of it in my mind before we started, but once we actually did it in practice, it worked out really well. Pause to say hi to our GC on this project, Moose. He is a really good boy. Once I got the sand leveled, it was time to lay the bricks. The way I leveled out the sand worked really well, and there wasn't a ton of adjustments that needed to be made. The patio was built pretty well the first time they did it, and it had the correct pitch, so we were able to move through this part pretty easily. The only time I had to add extra sand and use the rubber mallet quite a bit was along the seam to make sure I lined up the bricks that were currently there with the new ones I was laying. The patio had moved over some time, so I had to make some angled cuts here that needed to be redone since the old ones didn't fit. I was going to use my angle grinder or tile saw for this, but the blades weren't long enough, so I ended up getting a diamond blade for my miter saw and using that. This worked out great. I made a bunch of cuts and we fit those pieces into place. There were some other cuts that needed to be made around the new electrical work that was there, and I used a combination of my miter saw, my angle grinder, and the block chisel to cut these pieces to the right size. Once we got all of the pieces in place, it was time for the polymeric sand. This took a lot more sweeping back and forth than I thought. The directions said to use a compactor to get the sand down in the cracks, but we didn't have that, so I just jumped on the blocks. This whole project was one big fucking workout for me, and your girl was sore afterwards. Then I took my tiny blower and blew off the dust so it wouldn't leave a haze once we set the sand. Note, I refuse to buy a larger blower because I'm not supposed to be doing as much yard work as I do, and I currently have no storage space. Then we wet the sand, took a blower to it to get the standing water off, wet the sand again, say hi to Moose, and blew it off again. And then we were done. I was really happy with how this turned out. You wouldn't even know there was a seam there if the old bricks weren't dirty from us working on this project. My friends will be able to use this patio again, and whether they know it or not, I will be back to help them with some more projects around the house.